This is Thea Magia, and you're watching PhilippineNews.com.
And at this time, I'd like to turn the call over to Ms. Odette Keeley of New American Media. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, operator. Welcome to New American Media's National Telephonic Press Briefing, The Rise in Asian American Naturalization, How the Numbers Are Changing the U.S. I'm Odette Keeley, National Network Director of New American Media, as well as the organization's TV news anchor and executive producer. We are pleased today to host this national press briefing together with the National Immigration Forum and the New Americans Campaign. Thank you to the National Immigration Forum for providing the call-in number for this telephonic briefing. This call will be recorded, and we'll be sending you a link to the recording as soon as it is available. I'll be telling you about our speakers in a little bit, but we also want to provide everyone a context for our discussion. And thank you for everyone's patience for waiting as we waited for everyone to get on the phone call. Immigrants coming to the United States from China and India now outnumber those coming from Mexico. In the last decade, the number of recent Chinese immigrants nearly tripled, while Indian immigration more than doubled, according to a report released last week by the Migration Policy Institute. Across the U.S., the Asian American population has grown from 1.5 million people in 1970 to more than 18 million today. And Asian immigrants have among the highest naturalization rates in the U.S. Today we'll be hearing the naturalization numbers for different Asian communities, how the New Americans Campaign is helping immigrants become U.S. citizens, and how the numbers are changing the face of the U.S. in various cities across the country, from the first ABI elected officials to increases in income among naturalized citizens. We will also give you a chance to ask questions from our speakers, and we'll hear those instructions. We have 5 speakers joining us on the call today. We have Annie Chung, President and CEO of Self-Help for the Elderly in San Francisco. Jana Batalova is Senior Policy Analyst at Migration Policy Institute in Washington, D.C. Jeanette Yip, Executive Director of Boat People SOS in Houston. And we also have 2 naturalized citizens, our folks who are really giving a human face to this story, our testimonial speakers, joining us from LA and Houston to share their personal stories. That's Zen Santos and Nakin Lam. Because Annie Chung will only be on the first half of the call, we've asked her to go first as our first panelist. After she speaks, we'll open it up to questions from the media, if there are any questions. Then we'll move on to the other speakers and open it up to questions from the media again at the very end of our phone call after everyone has given their comments and remarks. So please do be thinking of your questions right now for Annie, who'll be talking about the New Americans Campaign. Just before that, operator, if you can give us instructions of how people can ask a question.
Absolutely. If you'd like to ask a question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. And if you're using a speakerphone, please make sure your mute function is turned off to allow your signal to reach our equipment. Once again, it is *1 to be placed in the queue.
Thank you very much, operator. Now I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Annie Chung. Annie Chung is the President and CEO of Self-Help for the Elderly, which began serving seniors in San Francisco's Chinatown in 1966. Today, they serve over 35,000 seniors each year as a nonprofit organization. So, Annie, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Odette. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much also for the accommodation of my schedule today. But today, besides representing the Self-Help for the Elderly, which is celebrating our 49th anniversary, so next year we'll be 50 years old, I'm also representing one of the New Americans Campaign local initiative coalition in San Francisco called the San Francisco Pathway to Citizenship Initiative. But today I'm going to speak more as a representative of the New Americans Campaign. Some of you may be aware that the New Americans Campaign started about 4 years ago in 2011 with a nationwide coalition of funders, leading national immigration and service organizations. And in 18 cities across the United States, we have over 100 local service providers, which are increasing and providing the access to naturalization and citizenship so that more legal permanent residents can become U.S. citizens. just very quickly, among the newly naturalized citizens, the New Americans campaign throughout these 18 cities have served almost all of the AAPI communities, including the South Asians, the Tongans, Pacific Islanders, definitely a very big percentage of Filipinos, Vietnamese, and Chinese. But we also serve Koreans and Cambodians in these group processing workshops. So we are asked to share a little bit that since the New Americans campaign started, what has been the impact on the AAPI community, particularly increasing the number of citizenship applications. So in the past 3-4 years, we have sponsored over 2,500 naturalization group processing workshops and clinics throughout the United States. And as I said earlier, there's over 100 local community-based organizations that are involved in coming together at each of these workshops and clinics so that more legal or lawful permanent residents could fill out all of their required paperwork in order to submit the application to become U.S. citizens. Overall, we have completed nearly 154,000 naturalization applications and probably help the legal, what we call the legal permanent resident community, the LPR community. We estimate that we have saved over $108 million in legal fees, which otherwise our AAPI communities will have to pay out in order to get naturalized. The New Americans campaign so far have also helped save over $27 million in application fees, because for the LPRs who qualify to get a fee waiver at these group processing workshops, we're able to put in that fee waiver so that they don't need to pay the $680 application fee per person. Also, to date, we find that these group processing clinics and workshops have been very successful, because in following up phone calls with these participants who came through the workshops, over 85% who attended our workshops have submitted their application, and over 94% were approved. So overall, we feel that the New Americans campaign have been really successful in doubling the rate of naturalization among the AAPI communities. In San Francisco, the SM Pathway to Citizenship Initiative recently completed a mega workshop last Saturday on May the 16th. Over 2,000 people came, and we served close to about 1,000 people, helping them complete the N400 forms, answer their different legal questions, and also about language access, and helping them prepare the whole package, including giving them free passport pictures so that they could submit their applications right away. So I'm going to end here and see if there are any questions regarding the New Americans campaign.
Thank you very much, Annie. And again, that was Annie Chung, President and CEO of Self-Help for the Elderly in San Francisco. And thank you so much for your very important insights and a real clear context of what this campaign is doing to help people get on the pathway to U.S. citizenship. If you have questions for Annie, since Annie needs to leave us very, very soon, questions from reporters are being accommodated right now. Please join the queue. Operator, if you can just briefly give us the instructions again on how we can ask questions.
Absolutely. Again, it is *1 if you'd like to ask a question.
Anybody on the queue right now for Annie Chung from our reporters, from our media? Do we see anybody on the queue? While we're waiting for that, Annie, I want to take the moderator's prerogative here and just ask you, in all of the years immersed in this work, especially with the New Americans campaign, what do you think is the most important stake for Asian American immigrants, for Asian immigrants in that pathway to citizenship? What's the most important benefit?
I I think a couple of examples we saw at the last Sunday's workshop were so gratifying when finally the LPR holding the whole packet of information would talk to our volunteers and said that, like they have been working hard ever since they immigrated to the United States, never had the time to think about naturalization or the money to afford to pay the high application fee. But with the New Americans Campaign free workshops and with all of the legal advice that they could get at one place in one day, this applicant felt that a big heavy rock had been lifted from the shoulders, and now they could become U.S. citizens and very proud of it. Also, the children now have more access to scholarship, which is one of the key reasons why they also want to become U.S. citizenship and also move up to maybe better jobs outside now that they have U.S. citizens. So all those are really benefits of having our LPRs become U.S. citizens, and each one of them express gratitude to all the 600 volunteers that were there that day in helping them. So it was really a very gratifying experience.
Thank you very much, Annie. Just a last call out. Operator, anybody on the line that has queued up to ask Annie a question?
Yes, we'll take a question from Marie Millar Jimenez with Media Communications.
Hi, good morning. I'd like to find out approximately how many Filipinos have applied through this process for citizenship.
I think that I could get the overall New American Campaign's number back to you, Marie, but for the San Francisco Pathway Initiative, among the 3,500 and 400 forms we have completed in the last 2 years, about 8% were from the Filipino community. About 20%
Thank you.
from the Chinese community.
And we'll make those numbers available to everyone on the call today, right? And we'll definitely be in touch with you. Any next questions, operator?
Yes, we'll go next to June Newcomb with Inquirer.net.
Hello. I'd like to know what are the common reasons for turning down the applications of LPRs?
Sorry, John, can you repeat that question again?
Yeah. Can you cite the common reasons for turning down any applications for being citizens of Asian Americans?
Okay, and so at these group processing workshops, which is usually like a one-day or half-day event, many of the organized community organizations could only handle, the applications that are not too complicated. For example, if there are some legal issues regarding past certain, let's say, citations or criminal records that needed a police report, then we have to refer those applicants to an individual organization to do follow-up work. So on the day off, we don't reject them, but we cannot really complete the entire S400 form. Usually, those people that have not completed the form out, they have not been here in the United States for over 5 years, or judging from their in and out trips outside of the United States, they didn't meet up the 50% residents in the United States. So those cases, we could not complete the N400 forms on the day at the workshop.
Thank you very much, June and Marie, for those questions. Maybe we have time for just 2 more quick questions, operator. Do we have another one?
Yes, we'll go next to Fan Chin with Incal newspaper.
Hi, Annie.
Yes.
Hi, Annie. I'm just wondering, when you're helping this LPR person, on average, how long they are holding the green card before they submit the application? How many
Many
years?
of them, many of them have already been in the United States holding the green card for over 5 years, right? So that's a basic criteria to whether they can be naturalized. Or if they married a U.S. citizen, then the minimum is 3 years. But interestingly, with the 13 workshops that the San Francisco Coalition had done, actually a good percentage, like 30-40%, have been in the United States for over 10 years. So we always ask them, how come it took them that long, to come for? Many said that they just didn't, gather up all their papers in order to apply. They could not afford the legal fees, or many of them really couldn't afford the $680 per application. But at these workshops, at the New Americans Campaign workshops, we do the fee waiver for them. So that $680 was totally waived for those that qualify.
Okay,
It's actually a big difference.
for the question. We'll take one last question, operator, if there's one.
We'll go to Miko Lataga with Freelance Writing.
Yeah, hi. I think I'm good with my question. The first question was also similar to my question. It's about the number of Filipinos in the New Americans program. So I guess that information will be available to everyone. So I think I'm okay with my question right now.
That's great. And maybe, Miko, you can get on the queue again later after all of our speakers have spoken. Thank you so much to all of our media who've asked their burning questions from Annie. And thank you very much again, Annie, for joining us, being part of our panel today. Not only have you illuminated for everyone how this particular campaign is just one example of so many initiatives that help individuals and families, but as we'll hear from Jana and we'll hear from Jeanette Yip and our testimonial speakers, it's really helping Asian communities, Asian immigrants, and really providing that voice in the civic realm. So thank you, Annie, again for joining us. I know you have to sign off. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
And now we are moving on to our next speaker on our panel, and that's Ms. Jana Batalova of the Migration Policy Institute, to give us the numbers and to give us the clear context of our discussion today. She's a senior policy analyst at the Migration Policy Institute. Jana Batalova is also the manager of the MPI Data Hub, an online resource that provides access to the latest information on immigration and immigrant integration. Her book, Skilled Immigrant and Native Workers in the United States, was published in 2006. So, Jana, thank you for your time today, and you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me to speak at this meeting. So let's just start with a brief historical context. The U.S. has a long history of Asian immigration, beginning with the Indian and Chinese laborers who came to work in agriculture and railroad construction in the West, starting in early 19th century. They were followed by farmers and other unskilled workers from the Philippines, Japan, and Korea. And these pioneer migrants formed the first Asian immigrant communities in the United States. That changed in the 1920s with the passage of restrictive immigration laws that brought the flows from migration flows from Asia to a near hold. Again, the pendulum swung in different direction with the changes in 1965, which abolished the restrictive racial origin quotas and ushered the new era in U.S. immigration, with now flows dominating and the immigrant groups dominating by Mexico and other Latin American immigrants, as well as Asian immigrants. And the most recent trend that was already mentioned on the call is that for the first time in decades, Mexico, which is still the largest by far immigrant origin country, but it's no longer the top source of recent immigrants in the United States. it's been overtaken by China and India. So our data show that of the 1.2 recent immigrants who were counted in 2013, China was the leading country of origin with 147,000 immigrants, followed by those from India with 129,000, and only then was Mexico of 125,000. And if we look at the less than a decade ago, recent immigrants from Mexico outnumbered the flows from China and India each by sixfold. So we see a huge change in recent immigration. As I mentioned, the number of Mexicans is by far the largest in the United States, with about 11.6 million. But the number of Chinese and Indian immigrants in the United States is growing, and at the moment is about 2 million people. I have to say that Asian immigrants comprise many subgroups with very different and diverse needs and opportunities. And it is, if we look at the percent of Asian immigrants by group who are naturalized, that gives us one indicator of how different the groups are. So let's quickly take a look at the numbers. Just for comparison, of all immigrants in the United States, 47% are U.S. citizens by naturalization. Of all Asian immigrants, 59% are naturalized. But if we look at the top Asian origin groups, we see a difference. We see a variation. On the one hand, we have Vietnam and Taiwan. 76% of Vietnamese immigrants are naturalized citizens. 74% of Taiwanese immigrants are naturalized citizens. On the other end of the continuum, we have immigrants from India with 47% naturalized citizens, and from China, mainland China, of 51% who are naturalized citizens. For South Korea, the percentage is 59%, and for those from the Philippines is 68%. So we see quite a big difference in terms of the share of naturalization, share of people who naturalize. And really the reasons for naturalization vary for immigrants in general, immigrant group in general, and Asian immigrants in particular. And they range from the desire to gain political rights and economic benefits to personal and social considerations. So on the one hand, U.S. citizenship offers more security than, let's say, permanent resident status, which can be lost or revoked in case in some instances. Well, in addition, of course, to having the right to vote and ability to run for political office, U.S. citizens also may sponsor a wider range of family members for immigration, and they can bring children, spouses, and parents quicker than what's allowed for the lawful permanent residents. But citizenship, according to our research, brings concrete economic benefits. Our studies show that naturalized citizens earn more than non-citizen counterparts. They are less likely to be unemployed. They are better represented in highly skilled jobs, which is important for many Asian groups that are known for their high educational attainment. So it's the ability to transfer educational credentials from from their country of origin to the U.S. labor market is very important for some Asian groups. Our study of how immigrants experienced recession showed that naturalized citizens were better shielded from this economic crisis. For instance, they experienced a decline in median annual earnings of only 5% between 2006 and 2010, compared to 19%, a decline of 19% for non-citizens. So we see a big difference. Yes, that difference is explained to a big degree in terms of the education, because naturalized immigrants have higher levels of education, they have better language skills, more work experience. But even if we take into account these other characteristics, we find that naturalized citizens still have a wage premium over non-citizens. And these are very important reasons of why people consider naturalization. So that's in terms of the benefits that people might gain on the U.S. side, but we also need to consider the reasons why people might not want to become U.S. citizens, and that's because they might lose certain rights that offered them by their own citizenship, by the citizenship in their home countries. Some countries either still don't recognize dual citizenship, like China, or in the past they used not to recognize. For instance, the Philippines and South Korea. And for people, the consideration was that, well, if I get the U.S. citizenship, I may lose the privileges that I get as a Chinese citizen back home. In the last decade or so, maybe a little bit more, a number of countries changed their immigration and naturalization laws, and they offered opportunities for their compatriots who live abroad to either reinstate their citizenship or not lose it if they choose to naturalize elsewhere. For instance, in 2003, the Philippines made changes to the dual citizenship requirements. In 2010, South Korea did that. So, but that's not the case in all countries in Asia. So, for many families, it's a combination of way. It's really thinking about the different factors that play a role in them choosing to naturalize in the United States. I'll stop here, and we'll be happy to answer questions or provide the data if I have them handy.
Thank you very much, Jana, for that really comprehensive context with the statistics from MPI. Again, that was Jana Batalova, Senior Policy Analyst at Migration Policy Institute based in Washington, D.C. And we'll open up the phone lines later on for questions from the media at the end after our next three speakers speak. So please stand by, Jana, for those questions coming your way later on. Our next speaker right now is Jeanette Yip, Executive Director of Boat People SOS based in Houston. Boat People SOS was founded in 1980 to help Vietnamese refugees and immigrants who were fleeing Vietnam. Its Houston branch opened in 1999 in response to the high number of Vietnamese refugees resettling in Greater Houston, one of the largest minority populations in the area. The Houston office provides immigration and naturalization services, ESL and citizenship classes, youth and senior programming, disaster relief, and advocacy. As part of the National New Americans campaign, they help eligible immigrants apply for U.S. citizenship. So, Jeanette, you have the floor.
Thank you, New American Media, for giving us the opportunity to share our work here in Houston. I was asked to speak about the barriers of the Asian American community becoming a U.S. citizen, and also the benefits of becoming a U.S. citizen. And so I'll go ahead and start with the barriers that a lot of the Asian Americans here in Houston face is they have very low English proficiency. Many of the Asian Americans here have no education in their own country, and having to learn a new language is very difficult. And so in order to pass the U.S. citizenship interview, you have to have some English in order to pass that interview. Another barrier that the Asian American community also face is the financial barriers. They're unable to pay for the USCIS application fee. With the New American Campaign, we are able to hold free monthly workshops providing information on citizenship requirements, enrolling in English and citizenship classes, and providing assistance with the fee waivers for those who can't afford the fee. With the New American Campaign, we were also able to hold workshops in the isolated areas of the fishing community in the Gulf Coast. Many of these fishermen, mostly Vietnamese, actually had their green cards for more than 30 years and didn't realize that their next step was to become U.S. citizens. And so with this campaign, we were able to help a lot of these fishing communities to apply for citizenship. As a collaborative effort across the country, the New American Campaign has made it possible for organizations like ours to provide free monthly workshops in order to reach the masses, to encourage them to become legal permanent residents, to apply for naturalization. With this, the community as a whole realized the benefits of becoming a U.S. citizen. Many people realize that becoming a U.S. citizen is really a part of the American dream. And really, after taking the citizenship classes, many of them are motivated to really continue to learn English. And we encourage them to continue to obtain a higher education by going to community college. And many of them in hopes that with this education that they can apply for government jobs or higher level jobs in the city. Another benefit that they feel that they have becoming a U.S. citizen is that for family reunification, they are able to sponsor their family members, and this play a very important role in staying together and not having to be separated from their family. With family unity, we found that it contributes to the growth of the economy, because many of these families actually open small businesses, and with these small businesses, jobs are created in the economy as a whole. It had also been showing that naturalized citizens actually earn more than their non-citizen counterparts, and they are less likely to be unemployed and are better represented in highly skilled jobs. According to the USC Center for the Study of Immigrant Integration, the findings that citizenship alone can boost individual earnings by 8 to 11%, leading to a potential $21 to $45 billion increase in cumulative earnings over 10 years, and that will have a ripple effect on the national economy. Another benefit is that many are able to vote for the first time, and a lot of our naturalized elders never thought that they lived long enough to even cast the very first ballot. This is a very important step to the Asian American community because it allows them to become more integrated in America. This integration allows the AAPI community to become more visible in the U.S. cities, increasingly getting elected to public office. According to the UCLA Asian American Studies Center, there are more than 4,000 Asian Americans who currently hold public office in 39 states and federal government. I want to go ahead and name a few of the most recent first Asian American elected officials. Janet Nguyen is the first Vietnamese American state senator in the United States and the country's first Vietnamese American woman state legislator in California. David Rui, the first Korean American elected to the Los Angeles City Council. Helen Jim, the first Asian American woman elected to the Philadelphia City Council. And these are the very many first Asian Americans that we currently have as elected officials. So we're very, very excited about how citizenship really plays a critical and important role in our Asian American communities. Thank you so much for letting us share our work.
Great, and thank you, Jeanette, for just all of these examples of the impacts and the benefits to our communities. And in fact, what we'd like to do now is to right back to back with you is to have as our next speaker Nok Kim Lam, who you brought into our panel, whose experience is one of many examples of how citizenship classes, such as those that are in Boat People SOS, have helped families and communities. So we'd like to welcome into the panel to listen to her firsthand testimony, Nok Kim Lam, a Vietnamese American who was a former student in the Boat People SOS citizenship class, lives in Houston and is now a naturalized citizen. And Jeanette, you're right next to Nok and you're with her, and we'll help provide any translation if necessary. Thank you, Nok, and you have the floor to share your story.
My name is Nok Kim Lam. I work at the beauty salon over 17 years. I am a manicurist, but I'm still single. I come to Vietnam since May 1994 until now, and I still live in Houston, Texas. I come to U.S. because my brother is sponsor my whole family to come to U.S. Because I come, I want to be here with my family and no part from them. I'm very qualified to be a U.S. citizen because the U.S. citizen of America is very the best country. People live here, can vote, have to free for space, right? And there are more opportunities to find a job and go to school. I feel very exciting to be a citizen because my life have more better than before. Now I can travel anywhere I want. But in the future, I plan to be back to school. I hope my future, my life is better than now. Thank you for listening me tell my story.
Thank you, Nok Kim Lam, a Vietnamese American resident, now a naturalized U.S. citizen based in Houston. Thank you, Jeanette, for bringing her to our panel and the opportunity to hear her story. You know, Nok, your story and that of our next and final speaker, Zen Santos, originally from the Philippines, really brings the human face to the issue that we're talking about today and the importance of U.S. citizenship. So we're going to round this out and end with our final speaker, Zen Santos, came to the United States from the Philippines in 2008 and became a U.S. citizen in 2013. She's joining us today from Los Angeles, where she became a citizen with help from the Filipino American Service Group, Inc., or FASG, which is part of the National New Americans campaign. So Zen, thank you for your time, and you have the floor.
Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here in California, and we came here as what the mentioned that we were here in 2008. We never thought that we would learn to love this country because we were here because we were just petitioned by my mother-in-law who wanted us to be here, to stay with her since she's old. So we came here with my husband. And that was what is in our mind before. Then as they start, we visited some places, we had some tours, we began to learn the country. So we enjoyed the place, we had the job. I felt that I lacked something. So that is to be involved, and that is to go. So I thought I and my husband to have that in mind that we should be a citizen of this country. So we tried to save, for the application because we're aware that there is a fee for that. So we tried to save that, and unfortunately, after a few years of having a job since 2008, I lost my job. So our savings was spent for that, and we have no hope of having or become a citizen immediately because we know that our savings is for that. Then I tried to do something to augment the income since only my husband is the one earning. So I tried to help by going to some places where I can have some discount, coupon, and so on. So I heard about the FASG, and FASG has a lot. They gave me that discount for the class, and then he mentioned that we are also helping people to become citizens. So I want to, I want to because I want to go. But, you can apply here. So Jeanette of FASG told us, okay, is fill up the form, and maybe you can have a waiver for that application. And we were happy. And lastly, our application for waiver was approved. And that's the beginning of that. And after that, we had our OPT in 2013. And, I feel like to cry. Because when I heard, the song, I'm part of this country now. I am American now. And I can vote now. I can be one of them. I am involved now. I have to get involved in, deciding for this country where I live now. And please, thank you very much for doing this for us. And that's it. Thank you. And for giving the chance to share my story. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zen. That was Zen Santos, based in Los Angeles, California. And thank you also to Nak Kim Lam, based in Houston. Two folks are testimonial speakers bringing the human face, the human story to this issue. And at this point, we'd like to open up the phone lines for all of the questions from our media. Operator, if we could please hear the instructions one last time on how reporters can ask a question. Thank you.
Absolutely. Once again, it is *1 if you'd like to ask a question.
And do we have anybody in our queue right now? I believe we have several people on the queue. So, operator, please just queue them in.
We'll go first to Yuta Chin with World Journal.
Hi. And hello. Hi. It's just a quick clarification. So, regarding the number of Chinese. Hello.
Go ahead, Yuta. We can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, regarding the number of immigrants from China each year, what's the number of it?
And so,
latest data.
Right, the latest data. So, as of 2013, the U.S. Census Bureau data shows that 147,000 Chinese immigrants came within the last year. And someone asked earlier about how many people from the Philippines naturalized. So in 2013, I can give that number too. For those from the Philippines, 43,489 people naturalized in 2013. And for China, just in case you're interested in that number, it's 35,387 people naturalized in 2013.
Thank you, Yuta, for the question.
Okay, thank you.
Our next question, please.
And we'll go next to John Rudolph with Feed Two Worlds.
Hi, I was wondering if anyone has looked at the correlation between the number of people who become naturalized citizens and the numbers who then go on to register to vote, and if there's a breakdown on a state-by-state basis of those numbers.
Unfortunately, by we I mean the Migration Policy Institute hasn't done that study, and I haven't seen the numbers.
John will look into that question and look into it with our partners, and we'll be in touch and see if we can do a follow-up to your question. Thank you for the question. Next question, please, operator.
We'll go next to Richard Rivera with Philippine Daily Mirror.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I just have two questions there. And the first one is that relating to the presentation of the, I forgot the name, I think it's Gianna.
Jana,
right?
Right. Yes.
Yes, and she gave a breakdown of the number of Asian Americans who have been naturalized. And I would just like to find out where could we see all this data in one form, the breakdown of all of these immigrants who came here, because what I wanted to find out really is that it's interesting. I don't know if my notes are accurate or not, because in here I believe that Gianna had mentioned that Mexico is no longer the country whereby immigrants come from. It's now been overtaken by China and India. And that of the of the 7% of Asian Americans, 59% are naturalized, and on top of the list is coming from Vietnamese and Thailand, and followed by the Philippines, and ultimately from South Korea. But I don't know, because I'm just taking these notes, and I was wondering, I want to be accurate in my reporting, and if I could possibly get into a database or a report whereby we could actually get these numbers.
Absolutely. I'll be happy to put together a table with the numbers that I mentioned for these countries, because you are right. It just might be confusing to remember everything at once. So I will have the table that shows the share of immigrants who are naturalized. And I will also send the link to other data points that I mentioned that talked about recent immigration. So I just want you to understand that because there are immigrants from Latin America and Mexico in particular have been coming in large numbers for a couple of decades until recently, in large numbers, their overall number is still higher than those from Asia. However, if we look at those who come recently, that number is Asian-driven. So just understand that who is here versus who is coming. Those numbers will be different. But I'll be happy to put together the table and send you the link to the paper that talks about the recent trends in migration. So this way you have all the data in one place and you have context.
Yes, because you've mentioned there's about 11.6 million of immigrants from Mexico.
Exactly. So that's because they're already here, and they are to some degree these numbers are the legacy of large flows from Mexico in the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and in 2000s. But now the trends change. So if we look at who is coming in recent years, it's driven by Asian immigrants. But in terms of the sheer size of who's already here, it is still dominated by Mexico and other Latin America.
Thank you, Richard, for your question, and we'll definitely make those data points available to anybody else, the media interested in that data. And I'm going to take a quick moderator's follow-up prerogative here, Jana, because that is such a dramatic shift. It is a striking shift in terms of the recent migration being Asian-driven. And in the studies of MPI, of the Migration Policy Institute, are you able to pinpoint specific factors why that seems to be?
Well, there is no one factor, as you can imagine, but kind of to some degree, it's an alignment of a few demographic and economic factors in the sending as well as the sending countries as well as in the United States. So let's take a look at the United States first, of kind of what's happening in the U.S. that attracted more of Asian immigrants. So on the one hand, the United States has transitioned from a manufacturing economy to a service-based economy. And as part of this shift, the information technology sector has grown substantially and really was the engine of growth of the service-based economy and knowledge-based economy in the United States. That drove the demand for high-skilled workers. And in the 1990s and also in the decade of 2000s, a large number of immigrants from India and China came on employment-based visas to work in high-skilled occupations. At the same time, immigrants from foreign students from China and India and South Korea have been coming to the United States in large numbers to study across a variety of fields, but primarily in the computer sciences and other IT-related fields. So these foreign students became workers in the U.S. economy. So we have these people, they became students and foreign workers, high-skilled workers. They became the new generation of immigrants from China, India, and South Korea. On the other hand, we have in the United States the economic downturn that occurred. It hit specifically low-skilled industries like construction, manufacturing, hospitality, the hardest. Mexican workers, both legal and unauthorized, used to dominate those industries. So as these industries experienced decline, the demand for low-skilled workers also declined. If we look at the trends that are happening in the sending countries, in Asia, in particular in India, China, South Korea, Taiwan, the Philippines, these countries have become more integrated in the global economy with access to global travel and means to pay for education abroad. That created a whole class of people who became globally mobile and and became those who came to the United States to study as well as to work. And in Mexico, on the other hand, the demographic trends occurred, such as the number of children per family dropped significantly, so the fertility rate dropped, which with time created a smaller pool of workers for whom the economic opportunities available in the country were sufficient, so there was no need or as pressing need for them to leave Mexico and go to the United States. So you see, we have a number of trends that happen at the same time in the United States as well as in descendant countries that contribute to this really historic and dramatic shift in recent immigration from that of Mexico and Latin America to Asia.
Thank you very much, Jana, for all of those important contexts, and thank you again to you for providing the comprehensive picture of the data that really shows the rise in Asian American naturalization. Thank you for being part of our panel. Thank you for all of our speakers today. Annie Chung from Self Help for the Elderly in San Francisco. We had Janet Yip, Boat People SOS in Houston, and our two testimonial speakers, Kim Lam in Houston and Zen Santos in Los Angeles. Thank you to everyone. We are going to end the call here. We'd like to thank all of you for joining us in the midst of your busy schedules. This call was recorded, and if you'd like a recording of this call or have any other questions about the speakers and about anything that was discussed on this telephonic briefing, please contact my colleague Elena Shore at eShore, that's ESHORE, at newamericamedia.org, or at our phone number 415-503-4170, extension 112. Elena will also email her contact information to all of you so that you will be able to reach her with your questions. And for more information about the New Americans campaign, please go to www.newamericans.campaign.org. That again is newamericans.campaign.org. Thank you again to the National Immigration Forum and the New Americans Campaign, and thank you all for joining us. This concludes the New Americans Campaign's national telebriefing on Asian American naturalization. I'm Odette Alcazarin-Keeley of New America Media.